Welcome Chess.com viewers to this YouTube channel, which I'm now doing reasonably regular, maybe once a week. If you want me to continue, then leave your messages. If you don't, then log off now. Cheers. And what I'm going to look at today, I sort of alternate. One week I play some blitz and the next week I have a little look at some analysis, and I'm going to quickly go through the power of the diagonal. So like Usain Bolt, you know, you can imagine him being the archer, firing that arrow into space, you know, when he does his victory dance. The power of the diagonal, this mysterious line, is going to be the topic of our video here. And diagonal is obviously one of the most important things to control in chess. And previously I've looked at empty square sacrifices, but now we're going to concentrate on maneuvers which the bishop and the queen can get up to. And I think I've got some very interesting games. We're going to start off a little bit more positionally with some piece maneuvers, and at the end of this YouTube tuition we're going to finish with some crazy sacrifices. I can't contain myself, you know. I need to sack a piece every time I do something, you know. Otherwise I get a bit twitchy, you know. I have to sack something. So we're going to start with a game from the great Bronstein, and this was against Veresov, and Bronstein was black here. Bronstein, David Bronstein, one of the strongest players in the world, never to become world champion. I expect you could say Bronstein and also two other players, Korchnoi and Simon Williams, are probably the three players I consider to be the strongest players in the world, never to get the world championships title, but maybe there's time for some of them still. Okay, so in this position I just wanted to show you a lovely maneuver that Bronstein did. Bronstein is black here. We have opposite side castling, so it's all about the attack. At the moment there's not much danger to either side, but white is one pawn up. But now after the move rook to d2, Bronstein comes up with a brilliant idea. He plays a move to take over the diagonal. Do you like my little okay? And he does that. If you look at the white king, the open diagonal along here is very dangerous towards that king. So he takes over that diagonal by playing the move bishop to e4, cutting across that diagonal. So when you see an open diagonal near your opponent's king, always look out for ideas where you can take over that diagonal and try to catch your opponent's king in the nasty position it might be stuck in. So bishop to e4 is a good move, but that's not the amazing move. White now plays rook hd1, and now I think the next idea is a really amazing concept, because at the moment black doesn't have any obvious way to continue the attack. I mean, if the queen wasn't on a3, black would have knight takes a2 checkmate, but that queen is defending everything, and now it's a simply beautiful idea. I call the next plan we see double power, and it's something you'll see in a lot of games and something you should get used to playing in order to create good attacks. And that is when you swap your bishop and queen around, you put them on the same diagonal, but you put your queen in front of your bishop. For example, if you played a move like queen to f5 here, this doesn't really threaten anything. You've got the bishop and the queen the wrong way round, and you really need to have them the other way round to create dangerous threats. Now one way to try to do that would be to try to go something like bishop to g6. That looks like quite a sensible idea, with the potential queen to f5 is your intention here. And if white's not paying attention, then queen to f5, queen to b1 is going to be terminal. But here white can stop this idea, and you also have to consider your opponent's best ways to stop your plans. Maybe even a move like bishop to h3, taking control of this square. And it's not clear how you get double power on that diagonal. But Bronstein came up with a simply stunning concept. He played h6. Now that move doesn't look scary at all, but the idea is after something like bishop to h3, which is what white played, he now played bishop to h7. And this is a brilliant, brilliant idea. It's just lovely how this bishop on c6 has come all the way around to h7 in order to get double power. And now queen to g6 is an extremely strong move here. I mean, if white tries to take control of the g6 square, black can simply start taking a number of pawns on the king side, gaining a very good position. And this bishop is still x-raying across the board like a dangerous flaming arrow. So the game now continued. This was the winning maneuver simply, and now the game continued here. Let me just find the right move. It didn't go, it went rook to d7, and now simply rook to e8, threatening to take on e2. I mean, black could have also continued with queen to g6, but he wants to bring another piece into the game. The king now has to run because white, this whole maneuver destroyed white's position, and now this move, bishop to f5, coming back, actually won a piece. The point being, after bishop takes f5, queen takes f5, black is threatening to take the rook on d7, but also play queen to c2 check, and then queen takes e2 checkmate. So I think that's a very, very nice example of double power, the magic of a diagonal, and that's what we're looking at here. So let's move on to my second example now, and this is another famous maneuver which I think you guys might find very useful in your own games. And we're starting slow. We'll get to more tactics later on. I want to get the positional rubbish out of the way first. It might help you, you never know. And this is a game between Janowski and Rubinstein, and this is the first time this following maneuver was played, and this was a brilliant piece of positional chess that we see over the next 10 moves. Now, in this position, it should be white who is slightly better, because white has this big knight on e4. That knight is screwed into the square. You know, you're doing your housework, super glued it onto that central square. And if you compare this to the black knight on e7, it's a much more dominating piece. So the next move is a very clever maneuver. Black, first of all, after the move c4, plays knight to g8. And the idea is to exchange off the strong piece on e4 for black's weak piece on g8. And now after f3, black does stage one of the plan. He swaps off this knight. So there you go. This position has first of all stage one done. He's improved his position by swapping off his bad knight for the good knight. But now the next maneuver is another example of the magic of the diagonal. Whew. That's my ninja-like maneuver there. And the magic of the diagonal now, think logically here. Which piece of black's is not ideally placed? Well, the rooks are quite good here, but the queen is not really doing much here. And I will say a good little tactic if you want to try to, improve the positioning of your pieces is to mentally remove that piece from the board. So just move it from the board and try to picture any square or diagonal square idea where it would be better placed. Go for a square. And in actual fact, this queen would be best placed, it looks like, on this diagonal here, because then you put pressure on the diagonal, which has been weakened by the move f3, weakening the dark squares, and also then maybe the queen can hop out to one of these two squares later on. So here black does a stunning maneuver, and this is the first time I believe it is seen in a game. Queen to d8, and now white doesn't know what to do, so he maneuvers his piece around, and now queen to b8, and after king g2, queen to a7. And look how the queen has moved all the way from d7 to a7. A really beautiful maneuver there, gaining control of a very strong diagonal. And after rook to e1, queen to c5, black has gained the upper hand. His queen has become active, and now his queen can support the pawns on the queen side, so black can start pushing them. And he's got a better position, so I think that's a nice maneuver. Okay, let's move on to another positional maneuver, and then we'll come to the crazy tactics. I think we'll leave this one out. Okay, shall we go to Botvinnik? Let's go for Botvinnik. Okay, so we now see one more example of this queen, like the last case, wriggling its way into a better square. Let me flip the board so you can see it from the great Botvinnik's point of view. And this was a French defense. Black has a very strong central pawn formation here, but at the moment he's threatened with queen takes g6 check. So he first puts his king on f7, guarding that pawn. And now after h4, he comes up with this lovely maneuver again that we've seen. So try to think what you'd play here. If you can't improve the positioning of your minor pieces, which it doesn't seem like you can, you have to think of other ways to improve your position. So knowing what I've told you so far, pause the video if you need to. How can the queen wriggle its way into a better square? Not necessarily a better diagonal in this case, but it does become a strong square for the queen. How can you do that? Pause it if you need to. Well, now the queen, there's no point doing anything here because white's not threatening much. So because if white ever takes on f6, it just improves your center. And now Botvinnik played queen to g8 with the idea, like before, of wriggling the queen to h7, maybe into h5 and g4. But also, when the queen reaches h7, you have ideas of playing g5 and checkmating on the h-file. And after a couple of moves, bishop d2, queen h7, again the queen is much better placed now. Bishop b4, g5. That white decided to take the queens, but here after the move e5, Botvinnik's pawn center won the game here. So I think that's a very nice example. Okay, so now it's time for some tactics. Enough of this positional stuff to try to spice it up a little bit. That is, you know, we've got to get it a bit more fiery now to finish with. Okay, I've warmed you guys up. So now we're going to look at a concept which is the double bishop sacrifice. And this is one of the most beautiful sacrifices you will see in a game of chess. And we're going to take a look at the game of Lasker and Bauer here. Not Jack Bauer, who is busy killing terrorists in 24. I think he wouldn't lose in such style as in this game. But Johann Hermann Bauer doesn't quite have the same, sound to it, does it? Jack Bauer, Johann Hermann Bauer. No, it doesn't work. And we'll go through the opening moves very quickly. White starts with a bird's opening. An opening I like because I play the Dutch defense, and he develops his bishops to these two very interesting diagonals. So if you're a bird, if you play the birds, or you're tempted to play it, this may be something you could consider. And after both sides complete their development, now white does a very clever move, knight to e2, unleashing the bishop on b2 and potentially bringing the knight over to the king side. Very nice maneuver, well worth remembering. And this knight travels that way. And then we reach a position like this, which looks pretty calm at the moment. But here, Lasker unleashes. I think, again, this is one of the first times that the double bishop sacrifice has ever been played in a game of chess. And here he unleashes a brilliant idea. First he goes knight to h5. And after knight takes h5, have a little think here. What would you play if you're white here? Pause the video if you need to. In a second I'll ask you to do that. And try to calculate as far ahead as you can. So imagine you're white. I want you to go for a devastating Jack Bauer-like attack here. Destroy black's kingside. How can you do that in this position? And there's two moves you need to consider and try to calculate as far ahead as you can. Well, the devastating move here, which is the start of the concept of the double bishop sacrifice, is bishop takes Harry 7 check. Really strong move. The problem is, if you go queen takes h5, which of course looks very natural because you're threatening checkmate, well, black can defend here. He has to be very careful how he defends, but he can defend. I mean, how would you defend if you were black here? There's only one good defensive move in this position. The good defensive move here is f5, blocking out this bishop here. And now black can defend easily with something like bishop to f6 next. Black had to be careful in that last position because if he went g6 here, he would probably lose very quickly after queen h6, threatening queen to g7, shachmat. And now f6 is the only way to stop that. And now the breakthrough move, which I hope you can all see here. Pause the video if you can't see this, because there's a theme we're going to have a look at in a second. What move wins here? It forces checkmate in this position. Bishop takes g6, destroying the king side. Pawn takes, queen takes check, king h8, and now the rook swing. This is the important move that you needed to spot. Rook to f3, aiming to go rook h3, checkmate. And there's nothing black can do to avoid that. But instead of g6, f5 saved the day. So instead of doing this idea, white now came up with this brilliant double bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes h7 check. Black is obliged to take this bishop. And now queen takes h5 check. King to g8. Pause the video again if you need to. How does white continue the attack here? The concept of a double bishop sacrifice might give the idea away here. Well, now black has to face the power of bishop g7. And this double bishop sacrifice destroys the pawns in front of the black king. So white can finish the game with a brilliant attack. And now queen to h8 is threatened, so the black king takes the bishop. And now a very important move. White does not swing the rook in first of all, because then black, after something like rook to f3, might be able to defend, maybe with like rook to g8, and the king can run away to the hillside and over to have a relaxing vacation by the lake on the queen side. Don't know what happened there. What was I talking about? But instead of that, first of all, we force the black king to the h file by playing queen to g4 check. Now the king can't go to f6 because queen g5 is checkmate. So the king has to go to the h file, and now simply rook to f3 wins the game. Rook h3 again. This rook swing combined with a double bishop sacrifice is something to look out for in your own games. Okay, one more example of that, and the next example is between two players who have sadly passed away now. England's first ever Grandmaster, Tony Miles, who was a great character, and Walter Brown from America, another great character. And we'll dive into the action very quickly by blitzing out the opening moves. And again, we're going to see the power of the diagonal. We had a very quiet opening here, but it soon turned into action. And now, first of all, this is where it gets quite interesting. The next move is a very good move, c5, because what you're doing, you're blunting out the power of the bishop, and that's that diagonal. You're blunting out the diagonal. You're also gaining control of the d4 square. And here, this bishop on b2 is going to be a very strong piece. So we'll keep going a little bit further. Now white has both of his bishops placed, like in the last game, the Lasker game. Bishop to c6, and now queen to c7, castles, rook to d8. Okay, so knowing what we've looked at so far, you should be able to now come up with a very strong idea for white. These bishops, bishop on b2, bishop on e4, means that it might be a double bishop sacrifice because the black king has no protection. And you also have a potential rook swing, a pendulum swing-like move over to the king side. So pause the video if you need to. Try to work out a winning idea here for white on the same terms as the last game. See how you get on, and I'll show you once you restart the video. Well, again, it's the same as in the last game. White, first of all, destroys the h7 pawn with check. Black can't really ever go king to h8 because after queen to h5, there'd be a devastating bishop check followed by mate. So black has to capture the bishop. And now we follow this up with queen to h5 check, king to g8 forced. And did you see the idea, the double bishop sacrifice? Hopefully you did here. Bishop takes g7, and this move wins the game. King takes g7, and like in the Lasker game, we have to force the black king to the h file. So first of all, we play queen to g5 check. The king goes to the h file. And now this is maybe the difficult point. Let's just ask you a question. Is rook c4 the correct move, or is there a better move here? Pause if you need to. Well, rook c4 in this position is the normal way you continue the double bishop sacrifice, because the rook wants to get over to the king side. But here, black can hold on with f6 because the queen can try to get over to h7. For example, rook h4 check, queen h7. And yes, I expect that white is still okay here, but it's not checkmate anymore. So even when you're doing these tactics, you have to play the most accurate move, and here the most accurate move is first queen to f6 check. And now after either king g8 or king h7, king g8 played in the game, now we do the rook swing, rook to c4, and the rook is coming to g4. Checkmate is unavoidable here for black, so black resigned. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed those little ideas of some powerful diagonal maneuvers there. The next video I will do will be next week, and it'll be me playing blitz again. So I don't know what you prefer more, me playing blitz or a bit of analysis. You can check out my YouTube channel where I try to do one video every day or so on that, which is Ginger GM Videos, I believe. You'll find me if you search my name, Simon Williams. I've got loads of videos there. Be great if you could like and subscribe my videos on that channel. That will help me make more. And also, if you like these videos and you want me to continue, I'll keep doing more videos for Chess.com on YouTube. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. Good luck with the power of the diagonal. Let's hope you can sacrifice your bishops at some point in your life, and then you can say that YouTube video, that Tony Miles, he did it for me. Okay, bye for now then.